She had done it 7 times.
Nobody reported it. They were all too embarrassed to admit how completely they had trusted her. 7 cities, 7 fortunes quietly taken.
Each time she left, the people she had conned fell silent from shame, and she had counted on that silence for 15 years. But what happens when someone has been quietly waiting 11 years for her to make one more mistake?
Ink Witness, true crime, drawn in the dark.
In the spring of 2019, a woman named Victoria Harland drove into Asheville, North Carolina with a rented car, a forged backstory, and 15 years of practice. She had already chosen her next mark.
Victoria presented herself as a recently widowed philanthropist from San Francisco, drawn to Asheville by its art scene and a desire for a fresh start. Her backstory was practiced, her grief was calibrated, and every detail had been used in another city before.
Within 3 weeks, Victoria had joined the Asheville Mountain Garden Society, the social hub for the city's established wealthy class. It was there she first noticed Eleanor Ashworth across a crowded reception room.
Eleanor Ashworth was 68, recently widowed, and the inheritor of a significant pharmaceutical fortune. She was also, by every account, one of the most generous and trusting people in Asheville.
Victoria remembered every detail Eleanor shared, her grandchildren's birthdays, her late husband's favourite piece of music, the anniversary that still brought quiet tears. Within 6 months, Eleanor told people Victoria was her closest friend.
Victoria had a method. The first 6 months were about presence. The second 6 months were about trust. By month 14, the financial phase could begin, and Asheville was right on schedule.
Victoria began confiding in Eleanor about a fictional struggle, a distant financial pressure from her late husband's estate, just enough to invite Eleanor's protective instincts. It was a technique she had refined across 7 cities.
In Portland, a retired judge lost $340,000 to a woman he called his closest confidant. In Charleston, a gallery owner lost $520,000 before the woman he trusted simply stopped returning calls. The amounts had grown larger with each city.
Marcus Webb had spent 28 years with the Raleigh Financial Crimes Unit before retirement. He spent his mornings at the Asheville Grind coffee shop with crossword puzzles and a deliberate effort to stop noticing things.
On a Tuesday in October 2019, Marcus looked up from his crossword and saw a woman across the room, auburn hair, a warm and practiced smile, posture that suggested old money. Something deep in his memory began to pull.
Marcus drove home and found the storage boxes he had promised himself he would discard after retirement. Somewhere inside was a file from 2008, an open case, an unidentified suspect, a face he had studied for months.
The photo was 11 years old, and the woman in it was younger, but the smile was unmistakable. That particular angle, that warmth that felt engineered to disarm. Marcus placed it beside his phone and sat still for a very long time.
The 2008 case. A woman in Raleigh had defrauded a retired surgeon of $280,000 by posing as a trusted financial contact over 18 months. She had vanished before charges could be filed. The case was never officially closed.
Marcus had no badge, no warrant power, and no official standing.
What he had was 28 years of pattern recognition and one phone call to a still active colleague at the Raleigh Financial Crimes Unit.
Using only public records and archived social media, Marcus began tracing the woman backwards. Charity event photographs, local newspaper society pages, alumni directories, each city had left a faint but traceable mark.
Portland, Charleston, Scottsdale, Denver, Nashville, Minneapolis, Savannah. Different names, slightly adjusted backstories, the same operational method. Marcus had the full picture now, and Asheville was number 8.
Victoria Harland was not her legal name. She had used at least 6 identities across the documented cities, but her face appeared in photographs at charity events in every single location, always beside a wealthy and trusting woman.
Marcus had mapped the timeline from previous cases. Victoria typically moved against her marks between month 12 and 18. Eleanor Ashworth had known Victoria for 14 months. The window was open.
Marcus approached Eleanor at the Garden Society fall meeting and asked to speak privately. Eleanor listened to everything he said. Then she asked him quietly to please leave before Victoria arrived.
Marcus returned the next morning with a folder. He placed 7 photographs on Eleanor's kitchen table. 7 social events in 7 cities. The same woman in each, with different names written in the captions beneath. Eleanor stared at the final photo for a long time.
Working with the Asheville Financial Crimes Unit, Marcus helped construct a controlled scenario. Eleanor would appear to offer Victoria access to a significant brokerage account, precisely the kind of opening Victoria had taken before.
Victoria moved with her usual patience, suggesting that Eleanor might benefit from consolidating her investments with a contact of hers, a trusted financial advisor who handled private accounts discreetly. She had made this exact offer 6 times before.
When Victoria slid the wire transfer authorization form across the table at a downtown Asheville coffee shop, 2 plainclothes officers were seated within arm's reach. Eleanor signed nothing. Victoria was in custody before she reached the door.
Federal investigators identified the woman as Christine Ann Mercer, 47, originally from Akron, Ohio. Her fingerprints matched a 1998 shoplifting arrest, the only time in her life she had ever left a trace in any official system.
Once the arrest was made public, 6 of the 7 people Christine had defrauded in previous cities came forward. Total confirmed losses exceeded $3 million. Christine Mercer was charged on 24 federal counts of wire fraud and identity fraud.
Christine Mercer was sentenced to 11 years in federal prison. Her attorney argued that her marks had chosen freely to trust her, that no forged financial documents were introduced in the friendship phase, and that her conduct was sophisticated social deception rather than conventional fraud. A retired detective with no official standing was the sole reason Asheville became her last city, and 6 of 7 previous cases may never fully resolve. Was 11 years sufficient for a 15-year pattern of calculated betrayal across 8 cities and $3 million? Or does a con this deliberate demand something the law has no category for?